Okay, people, same day. Now it's 9:45 a.m. in the morning. I've been up since, what, 5:20 a.m.? I went out shopping with the kids the other day, and I want to say thank you to MCC for letting me go in there with the kids without a mask, without too much argument. Yay! I'm back at my old shopping romp. Oh, as a matter of fact, I'll show you the new pot that I just bought for 20 bucks. Actually, I bought two pots. I bought this cute little cast iron pot that I seen online, but I chose a different type. Anyway, I seen that one for 20 bucks, which I'm pretty sure is cheaper than what it is online. And another pot that I just threw out, okay? So I bought two pots. Anyway, then I went to the grocery store, and, you know, I get out, what, maybe once a month to something like that, if that, people, right? The last time I went out was to court. Last time before I went out, after that, it was before that was court, right? So, you know, it shows you how much I get out, right? So anyway, Andre and I, we decided to go to Lucky's instead of Nestor's, right? Because I wanted to see if I could go to the thrift store, and I actually got to buy some jars for Amari's apple sauces, fruit sauces, right? Got a couple of little clothing items, a couple of books for myself to, you know, cookbooks. Andre and I can, not that I need them, but whatever. And two pots, just miscellaneous stuff. I got some full brand new box of charcoal, bamboo charcoal, which I'm deciding what I'm going to do with it. So because I went grocery shopping, I ended up buying these cucumbers. I've actually been dehydrating a little bit more celery. I got some little peppers on sale, so I've dehydrated those. I'm at the tail end of them. I got these cucumbers, which I'm going to try and ferment. And because I have a couple of extra heads of cabbage in the house right now, I'm going to try and ferment. I know Lady P, I'm pretty sure it was Lady P that I was speaking to, saying that she didn't know much about fermentation. Obviously, I highly recommended it. I don't think she's gotten her book yet because some things can take time to go through the mail. Hopefully it won't get lost. Right? You're paying good money to mail it out, so there's no reason for it to get lost. Canada Post is usually pretty good. So in the meantime, it's raining outside. I need to mow the back because it's a heat score. It's funny how you live in a house, right? Just, you know, leaky boat, right? You know, just barely hanging on, right? Everybody's scoping it out to tear it down so they can capitalize on the land and build something else that you yourself would never move into. And houses are sitting empty as they're being scheduled for demolition over the next year or two. And so anyway, I'm trying not to think about that, you know. It's not like I can go out and mow the back right now to keep up that image of progress and how rich the neighborhood is, right? So I'm going to ferment cucumbers and cabbage between now and today, tomorrow. We'll start with the cucumbers. I'm just washing the jars right now, gathering everything up. I already boiled my water for brine, because you want to boil your tap water to remove the chlorine from it, have all the heavy metals settle to the bottom. That's a quick method for distilled water, right? You know, that kind of stuff. You don't have to go out and buy distilled water or whatever. You can just boil your water and it removes the chlorine. So that's the one you're going to use to ferment your product, whether it's cabbage, cucumbers, or whatever. And then I bought a little bit of pork, right? Because there's something that I want, and I found a few more pig's feet, cut whatever, so I bought them. So I got to get them vacuum sealed and ready to go. So I'm going to do that at some point and get them in my freezer. You see, that's the thing about food security, right? You kind of gotta, you can't really let up on it. You gotta kind of just every now and then just top it off, right? You know, in terms of, fermenting the food, putting it in the fridge downstairs is good. In terms of I have that available fridge space that after it's fermented, I can put it away and it will sit as I continue to use what I have, right? Now, the next time I ferment cucumbers, hopefully, will be in the summertime when I grow them, right? The cabbage I'm only doing because I have several heads of cabbage, and before I'd let them go to waste, I'm really not interested in dehydrating them. So before I would do that, I would ferment them. And once they're fermented and everything's good, you just put them into smaller jars and clean, sterilized smaller jars, and you put them away, and they last forever. Right? I need to start giving Amari more fermented food, but I'm going to have to grind it up in a grinder. So that's what I'm trying something. I want something more recently fermented. Right? It's just another method of food storage which is good for you, actually. So we're going to do that just for fun. Just work in the kitchen. Just for fun. I guess I'm lonely. I need company when I'm in the kitchen. Right? Because I'm always in the kitchen. Right? Pretty much. So we'll just work on the kitchen. Work in the kitchen. Okay. So the first thing you want is some big jars. Can you see? Now for me it's very dark, people. I live like a hobbit. House dark. This house is dark. I wish I had big bay windows. But besides that point. So anyway, we've got this one and we've got this one. I'm not sure what I'm going to use for what. I'll probably use these ones for the cucumbers because they're going to take up more space versus the cabbage, because once you start doing cabbage and it starts to ferment, it's going to drop down, right? And I'm only doing one head of cabbage and maybe a bit of carrot, okay? And then I like to use these on top to hold things down. And for lucky me, I have grapevine out in front that's already growing leaves. So, because they have tannin, I think it's tannin or tannis, one or the other. Horse chestnuts have tannin, grape leaves have tannis. And tannis is good for you. Tannin is not. Tannin is used to, I'll double check this in terms of the names. Tannin is used to tan hide, preserve hide, animal hide. Okay? You have to. If you were to eat a horse chestnut, which the natives, the American natives, can do, or have done, or perhaps still do, they leach the tannin out of the horse chestnut before they eat the nut in a form of a porridge, like a ghoul, right? That's what they call it, right? Where tannis is in the grape leaf, and you can eat the grape leaf and get those nutrients inside. And it also helps to keep your fermented products crispy. It's a natural crisper. So I'm going to go grab some grape leaves anyway. I like fermented onions. So I'm going to put a whole onion in with these cucumbers. Now these cucumbers, I mean, it's a hit and miss with them, people. Right? They came from a a larger food store that gets a lot of their product from China. So whether they came from China or not, I don't know. They don't look like they have a lot of wax on them, because you kind of want to try and avoid that, right? But I'm going to give it a shot anyway. And then the cabbages are just, like I said, I have like 3 or 4 cabbages. So before I don't want to dehydrate cabbage, but I wouldn't mind making some more sauerkraut. It doesn't taste like a canned sauerkraut, completely different. And just try and, incorporate that good food source into my diet and everybody else's diet more, right? Even if I have to sneak it in, right? For Andre, that is. Like, I'd have to mix it in. Like, you could take some fermented cabbage, grind it all up, and make a dip for nachos or something. And, chances are he'd like it because he likes fermented cucumbers, so... It's just the idea of eating sauerkraut. Something different, right? I tell him that as he grows, his taste buds will change. So anyway, this is what you need to start. You need your jars. You got to figure out how you're going to pack your food under the brine, under the liquid. Okay, so we'll start with that. So hold on. Okay, so these are the cucumbers that I found. Cheap, 99 cents a pound. Right? So I washed them last night. Right? Let them air dry. Okay? To evaporate that chlorine from the water, unless of course you want to wash them in boiled water, but that's requires more work, right? So if you wash them before you start using them right away, because the chlorine evaporates in a pool of water, a jug of water, within 24 hours. So as long as it gets in the air, it's gonna evaporate, right? That's what I'm trying to say. And then I just threw them in the fridge. So technically they're kind of cold right now, right? Okay? But it's just a matter of time before they warm up to room temperature. And I'm just taking off the few little blemishes. Okay? They recommend cutting off the ends, one more than so the other, because if you leave it on, it can make your pickle or your cucumber bitter. But the smaller ones, you kind of want them sometimes with everything, because then you can chew on them, make them really soft and juicy on the inside, then break the skin and then just suck on it, right? But these are like very big, and I'm going to probably slice them yet. I'm just getting them ready. I just thought I'd turn on the camera. Now, what happened with my last video was, I don't know why sometimes I miss a clip. I don't think I do. I go to convert the video and it didn't convert over properly. So I'm the one that deleted that video. But then as I'm listening to the video on YouTube, so whatever. I think it's okay. We'll see. Right? We'll see what happens. Honestly, I don't really like making that many videos. I still make them, but making videos for YouTube kind of makes me feel sick. Because you never know with those stalkers within their staff what's going to happen. Right? So, it's going back to being that abused bitch. Just waiting for hubby to get home and maybe beat you, maybe not. But sooner or later, he's going to beat you. Because it's in his character to do that. I'm not in a position to leave the YouTube relationship just yet. Right? I'm too codependent. to their service. But don't think that I don't feel sick sometimes about it. Like even with this last video, Punjabis need to step up. I mean, what would be their excuse to delete my channel because I'm asking a community that lives within my community that actually makes my community to step up to the plate? So that we actually have communities in 10 years from now. Right? You know, basically, are we even going to have communities in 10 years from now? And if we do, what kind of communities are we going to have? When I went to Lucky's, right, without my masks, Andre wasn't wearing a mask, I wasn't wearing a mask, Amari wasn't wearing a mask. 5 of their employees throughout my duration of spending money in their store all approached me asking me to put on the mask. And I'm like, no, I'm not putting on a mask. I have a mask exemption. And out of courtesy, which technically I shouldn't have to do this, people, okay, I offered to show it to them. They all refused to look at it. Even at MCC, they refused to look at it. But the point was, I had to be adamant that I had one, and I was willing to show them when, in fact, it's nobody's business what my healthcare status is. Just like that sheriff at the courthouse with his supervisor looking over his shoulder. It's none of their business what my health status is, people. I shouldn't have to show them. So that's something that needs to be challenged at some point. How it's challenged, I don't know. People are trying to challenge, but we live in a rogue society where, you know, that predator class is just doing what they want. I've seen it come in with the BC Liberal government. That's what the BC Liberal government used to do, people. As soon as they got into power, they started changing this, changing that, and as soon as you caught up to whatever changes that they were making, they'd change it, and then it wouldn't, you know, right? They were changing things as they went along. Well, everybody's doing it now. Well, I wouldn't say everybody, but a large portion of our society with these so-called leaders that appointed themselves to kings and queens. You know, they're just making up the rules as they go. And they're using their positions of power to commit crimes, white-collar criminal activity. And they have absolutely no regards for the Criminal Code of Canada or even for provincial or territorial legislation. Right? So now that I've done that, I've got my garlic, you can see. This is a little bit of dill that was frozen in my freezer from last year growing in that garden over there, which wasn't very much, but it smells like dill. It looks like dill because it is dill. So I'm happy to have it. I'm glad I saved it. I got some pickling spice, miscellaneous in a bag. I just thought I'd settle for this. I've got old one up there, old, whatever. It still works, okay? And then we've got this amount of cucumbers to try this. Yes, and I cut a white onion. And I've got my grape leaves. And before we go any further, Lady P, I just want to say that anytime you ferment food, honestly, it's a hit and miss. You're going to get more hits in terms of success than you will misses. In terms of whatever you were trying to ferment, just didn't work, and it accumulated a bad mold where it's not even salvageable, and you have to chuck it out and start it again. So don't fret, okay? Because for what it's worth in terms of your financial investment for the food, the end result, when you do get it right, is worth it. Okay? There's lots of benefits around fermenting food. You just have to look it up. It's good for your gut, okay? That's the first thing. The fresher the fermentation, the better it is. Although, like I said, I have cucumbers that were fermented 2 years ago in my fridge in jars that are delicious. Okay? Just saying. You don't have to put it in the fridge, but if you do, after the fact, then you can extend the life of it as long as you don't keep opening and closing the jar all the time. So, I will walk you through it after, not in this video, because this video is we're just fermenting it right now. We're not going to put it in different jars. And even then, you have 4 jars. You transport everything into 4 separate jars. 3 jars might be successful in terms of fully preserved and long-lasting versus 1 jar, for whatever reason, developed a black mold, which obviously you don't want to eat anything in that jar, and it goes out to the compost. There's water in that jar. I just heard it fly. Whee! The other thing is, if you can come across grape leaves, they have tannin. Tannin. T-A-N-N, or tannins. Oh, God. Let me look. Hold on a minute. It's the brain, people in the eyes. Hold on. T-A-N-N-I-N-S. Tannins, okay, is in grape leaves. Which in itself is a nutrient, as well as it's a natural crisper. It will help to keep your fermentation crispy versus having to use something like this, which is full, and I've never used it, but then I have it on hand if I ever need it. Oh, I think I maybe tried it once in a blue moon. Okay, but for the most part, I have grape leaves, so I don't need to use this. But it does the similar thing. Okay? And of course, it never goes bad. Right? Just remember that. And then they have one that's called, oh, where is it? I just seen it. Oh, it's in my hand. Fruit Fresh. This one here is to help to prevent browning. But I don't even know if I've ever opened this, people. Look, it doesn't even unscrew. Yeah, it's never been opened. So, I have it if I ever need it. Something like this, again, would never go bad. Okay? That's like like a citric acid. Something like this, ascorbic citric acid. Okay? This you put in to prevent browning when you're canning pears and apples or whatever, right? Or you need a little more acid in your food. Okay. It's a powder form, right? Okay. So I just wanted to point that out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our leaves. I washed them. I've let them air out for a little while. Right? And we're going to put a layer on the bottom. And then we're going to put a layer on top. And I may use, what do you call it? I may use a cabbage leaf on top. Or I may go outside and I'll probably go outside and get more of these. Right? Just, if you're going to wash them, if you have them, just let them air dry for a while to remove that chlorine. And then start piecing them on the bottom of your jar. Or your fermenting crock pot. Throw in your garlic, stuff like that. Line up your pickles, and then take your boiled water. Get yourself a quart-sized jar. This is a quart. Fill it up with your boiled water. Put in 2 tablespoons of salt. Make sure it doesn't have iodine in it. Okay? You can use pink Himalayan salt. In this situation, I am going to use that other mineral salt because it has the minerals and stuff in it, but it doesn't have iodine in it, right? Okay? Some people say that pink Himalayan salt is better than that, but I've done pink anyway, I'm going to use that one. So I'm going to take 2 tablespoons per quart after the fact, and we're going to see how much we get in terms of liquid. I want the bigger leaves more to cover. So the smaller leaves can go on the bottom. You don't need them. You just want it for that crispiness and perhaps a little bit of extra nutrients. Okay? Because they do have nutrients in them. I don't necessarily like cooking with grape leaves because they're kind of tough and you really got to know how to cook with them. And I'm always so busy. I suppose if I wasn't so busy, I'd probably go out of my way more to cook with them and make little cabbage rolls. Well, this isn't cabbage. See? I'm coming into histamines. I can tell right away. Hold on a minute. Okay, so basically what I've done is I've hired somebody to help me with the porch and to go over these gutters, fix that one there, right, and really do a good job by the end of the year in terms of anything, because the guy that came last year, and I don't know, he came in fall and he kind of had a bad attitude, and so anyway, I asked this guy when he's doing the gutters if he could string up the Christmas lights for me since he's up there, right? So that's all going to cost me about $500 between, well, the porch is $3 and the gutters and the Christmas lights is $2. But that's like really making sure that the gutters are really in good shape in terms of any leaks and that kind of stuff. Now I don't know. Maybe I didn't get enough cucumbers here for what I'm doing. I think I'm short on cucumbers, people. This jar might be too big. So in that situation, I don't know. These things, before I use them, I like to put them in boiled water just to sterilize them, because they're going to help to hold everything down, right? So I'm just boiling up some water right now. Right? You can put marbles in a bag, use that, a plastic bag, anything to hold it down. In this situation, I'm using those because they work pretty good. I don't mind them. For what it's worth, I just think I'm a little short on these cucumbers. I'm short a few. I was a little reluctant to buy because I don't know how much wax is on them, but I've bought cucumbers from these little food stores before under similar circumstances, and they worked out fine. These ones, can you see how big they're going to be? Yeah, these are mothers of a cucumber. Yeah, I'm a little short. Now I do have one other cucumber in the fridge that if I cut half of it, peel it for the most part, because that one for sure probably has wax. Certain cucumbers have them, certain ones don't. I can't remember. But I'm going to need just a tad bit more, because I don't want to have to repeat. So I'll just show you. Okay. I don't know. Where's my flashlight? I put in 1.5 teaspoons of that pickling spice. Right? Obviously the garlic on the bottom. I put some of that dill on the bottom. I've got a little bit there that I'm just going to put, right? I put half of that, just sprinkled that hot pepper, that chili pepper, a little bit on the bottom, and 1 bay leaf, right? Maybe 2. Looks like, I don't know. Anyway, you can see what's going on in here. There's just a little bit of room. So I'm going to get the other cucumber, and I'm going to peel it, and I'm going to put it in there. So hold on a minute. Okay, anyway, you can see, right? The ones that I put in there, they're like just the smaller ones, right? They're not like full size. So this will be fine, I think. Okay, don't need to peel too much, right? Not for these kind, I don't think. Right? It's those other ones. So anyway, I'm not going to. Right? I'm just want to fill up my jar. Right? I want everything standing up nice. It's going to take up the whole cucumber, but I'm glad I bought it. Right? Because it's pretty much what I just needed in terms of filling up this space. If it doesn't work, I can do it again. Alright, because cucumber season's coming in anyway. Alright. So once that's in, then I like to take, try and make them all the same size. But whatever. There's one that's really, a couple of them really sticking out here. I just chop them down and throw them in there to fill up the blanks. Alright. I'm hoping this guy knows how to do lights. Because I'll tell you, these fluorescent lights are just killing my eyes, and this house is so dark. So dark. So hard on my eyes. Right. Okay. That should be fine. A couple of them are a little high. Let's try and get them all pretty much one length. Do the best you can. Alright. Oh yeah, I forgot my onions. Look at that. See? If I would have used my onions, everything would have been fine. So, take the onions and just put them in there. Nothing has to be fancy. None of it's fancy. Just take them like that, right? And just, well, I don't know. Take out the cucumber now and throw in some onions. I like it. It's nice.
What you doing?
I'm getting cucumbers ready to ferment.
Turn to pickles?
You like these ones? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you do.
That's a big jar.
It sure is. That's why Nana keeps them. Right?
We're gonna have big pickles.
Hard to find. Right?
Okay.
When you find them, you want to keep them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe later on, can I boil a hot dog?
When I'm out of here, I'm not going to be in here all day.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Right. I try and encourage him not to eat them, but he really likes them. So.
Well, I haven't had them for a long time, too.
I know. Because I won't let him eat them all the time.
I don't.
Right. So just mix everything up around, you know, a little here, a little there. So, hold on a minute. Okay, so easy peasy, right? You can see, okay? It's pretty straightforward. Takes up to 7 to 2 weeks to get it going. In terms of, by 7-8 days, you start tasting, or smelling or whatever, right? In terms of, because it will ferment, and then eventually it will just start to slow down, right? But anyway, you can see here we've got our quart-sized jar, and then I'm just going to take, it's so dark for me, people. I don't know what it is like for you, but for me, it's very dark. So we're going to just take 2 tablespoons. This is just for cucumbers, right? Okay. Cabbage is slightly different. And then we're going to dissolve it. I'm pretty sure it's 2 tablespoons. It seems like it's a lot of salt, doesn't it? Yeah? What do you think? Maybe I should double check. Just give it a good stir. Let it settle down for a few minutes. And then come back and stir it. Hold on. Okay, so easy to Google, right? Anyway, it's 2 tablespoons per quart. This is for cucumbers, right? If you're in a down south or someplace where it gets hot, in terms of 85 degrees and above inside your house, then you add an extra tablespoon, right? But in this case, my house is cool. You can see I'm wearing a sweater, okay? It's raining. The weather out in British Columbia, Canada, has been actually quite cold. There was a period of time where we had about 2 weeks of warm, really summer-like weather where it tricked the plants. And then you just take it and pour it in, okay? It tricked the plants into early bloom. Like I said, that's when you want to cover up your plum trees and cherry trees with some burlap. And protect them from the cold snap if you want a big harvest. But besides that point, so I don't have enough in this case, so I'm going to do the same amount and top it off. This is for you, Lady P, okay? Because your cookbook should be coming in the mail soon, right? I'll get you started. And, so we're going to do that again. Just showing you little tricks of the trade in terms of once you get it stabilized, after it's fermented, you move it into canning jars like this that have been, you can sterilize them in the oven at 250 for 20 minutes if you want to, just to try and prevent any mold from growing and once you put it away, right? Because you're going to take it out from here and later move them into smaller jars so that you can put them in the back of your fridge and you have them. Although these kind of things can stay out in the open without a fridge for months and months and months. Okay, so this is how they used to do it on the farms, right? So anyway, just give it a good stir. And then over the next little while, I will walk you through the process in terms of the little white mold. There's a name for it. I don't know what the name is, but it's a little white mold. It's not a mold, it's a yeast, really. It's not mold, it's yeast. There's a name for it. I think it starts with a K. Kefir yeast or something like that. That's good. But when you're getting into your colors, dark colors, that clearly is mold, or they're fuzzy, no, you don't want. So technically, you have to burp these things too, right? In terms of, after you get everything in, you cover it up to try and keep the air out so everything will start to bubble. And then every now and then you got to open it up, skim them off the things that float to the top, because those are the things that are going to attract mold growth, right? Make sure your weights are down, everything's under the water, okay? Because the mold will be at the top and it won't, nothing inside below, right? So the more you can keep your food fairly tight and not surfacing, the better. So this is where we're at right now with it. Okay, so that was 2 quarts in this particular jar. Right, you can see. Okay. Now you see the onions floating on top. Okay. So I'll probably just take those particular ones out, or I'll tuck them in underneath the leaves. But for what it's worth, I don't need them. So I'm just going to take them out with a spoon. And then I'm going to come in later with either, well, if you don't have grape leaves, you can use cabbage leaves, or you can strictly use weights. Okay, you can see I've put those nice little glass canning lids from the good old days in boiled water just to kind of, kill off germs. So before I stick my hands in there, I'm going to go now wash my hands. Okay, because I'm touching things, right? So I go in with clean hands, right? Slightly dry from a clean tea towel. And then I'm going to adjust everything in there. Take out what needs to come out. And then take my grape leaves, tuck it all in nicely. Okay, push it down. And then I'm going to take my little weights. Stack and pack. Then I'm going to find a little plate that will sit up on this, and that will be our first jar. And then I'm going to have to find some room on my table over there, because I've, again, been moving things around. So it can sit there for up to a week or more, and I'll check it every day, right? Just because if you leave it for too many days, that yeast will accumulate, and it will throw you off, and it has the potential, if left on too long, without taking out things that are coming, like those little peppercorns or other spices from the pickling spice coming to the surface, right? So you kind of want to get those out. So hold on a minute. There's that histamine again. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, since it's been a while since I've done this, I made another jar, okay, to top off the those glass lids that I put on there. Okay, because you'll be tempted to try and take them out and clean them. It all depends, right? It all depends how it ferments. There's no, every batch is unique to itself, okay? Now, there is a YouTuber that does everything. Meat, all of it. I don't ferment meat, okay? I don't need to. I prefer my meat canned. I don't salt it. I suppose if I had to, and that was the only way to preserve food, I would do it, but I don't need to. I like this because, one, I like the taste of it, and it's good for you, so. And it's pretty straightforward, and you get more hits than you do misses, right? I've only had 1 or 2 batches maybe not work, okay, out of everything that I've done. I haven't done a lot, but we'll just say 1 batch out of 10, okay? 1 batch didn't work out of 10 batches. I'll just put it at that ratio, which is pretty good. So just to make it easy on yourself, because you want everything under the brine, okay? So it's okay to make a little extra brine and just top everything off. Those glass things are not going to float, because if any that little white mold, it's not mold, it's yeast. That little white yeast that's going to form at the top, okay, that's okay. That's what you want. You want that. It will be easier to skim off to control, you don't want mold to grow. So as it formulates, it's just going to all formulate at the top. And in that situation, you could come with a clean spoon, non-reactive metal, and just skim it off as it's fermenting. Eventually, it stops growing. Okay? Now, do you see how I did that? So those glass lids are on the bottom. Okay? Those are from the old school jars. That's how I learned to can with my mother, with those kind. And then the rubber rings. And then they brought in the metal lids. So, you can see. So as things bubble, it's going to release some of your little spices. It's all going to find its way to the top. So every now and then, you just skim them off, and you're good to go. Try not to disturb anything else. So that's jar number 1. And for what it's worth, there's hardly anything there. So it took about 3 quarts. After it's all said and done, you can actually take the brine and use it to make salad dressings and those kind of things. Just saying, right? So we'll just turn on a little light. Oh. What happened to my flashlight, people? I guess I'll have to go plug it in. Hold on. So then after, you just put a plate on it. And every now and then, right, if it's not burping up on its own, just skim it off with the little peppercorns or whatever spices that float to the top. Anything, right? Because that's what's going to attract mold growth. I've given it a fair amount of liquid, so you're going to get a little white film on your little glass jars, but because lids, your little glass lids or whatever, right? But because it's under the liquid, you're not going to get the mold. So don't disturb it if you can't. That's why I gave it a little extra. Because when you start pulling them out thinking, oh, you got to wash them, that's how you introduce new bacteria into your brine, and you potentially contaminate the whole thing. Now, my house is cool, so in light of what I'm doing, I'm actually going to turn up my heat, and I'm going to try and keep my house a little warm for the next few days. Right? I'm going to move this. I'm going to clear off my table a bit. It'll motivate me to. And then I'll move it, and then after that, I'm going to start with the cabbage, and then we're going to get into the pork. And we're going to check a little bit of this is just a food video, right? This is just to keep people motivated to build in that food security, whether it's fermenting, whether it's freezing, whether it's canning, whether it's dehydrating. Okay, there's multiple ways to do it. It all starts to add up, and in the end, you can make some really good soup. Okay, you see that bruise? A little bruise there. Where did I get that bruise from? I think I bumped into something. Anyway, when I was at Lucky's there, right? You know, I got those cucumbers and whatever. The last time I did pig's feet and jelly, I don't know. I used too much, what is it called? Always say that. I used too much rosemary and not enough bay leaf. So needless to say, I didn't like it. So I gave it to the animals. The animals liked it. But if I don't like it, I don't feed it to Amari. Right? And this, what I'm making for Amari, is high in gelatin, which is that natural collagen, right? That comes from bones and that type of thing. And for his circumstances, it's good for his cartilage, right, in the hip bone. That's what I always think about. So for people that have hip problems with bone, with their cartilages, eroding away because of weight, usually, right, or just not very mobile, like in a Mari situation, with the walking, and you want stuff like this in your diet. I realize not everybody eats pork, but I'm Ukrainian, grew up with it, and I like it. And Mari really likes this stuff too. And you can freeze it. It freezes nice in those little jars, and it unthaws very well, and it retains its jelly. And as long as it tastes good, you're good to go. So, being that I was at that grocery store and I don't get there very often, right? What do you call it? I picked up on a little extra pork, which some of it I'm going to freeze. And before I freeze it, I like to vacuum seal, because we know why. So I got this. This is just, it's got a little bone in it, which is nice. $7.23 shoulder steak bone in. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off a piece from this, or maybe something from, I'll show you else, right? And I'm just going to throw a little extra. I'm going to show you what I'm going to start cooking. I went looking for my grandmother's pig's feet and jelly recipe. It's really simple. Scrape feet and wash. I didn't do that last time. I just took them out of the container. They were frozen. Okay, so whatever. Just remember to always scrape. Okay. Put into boiling water. Cover with water. And then it says 4 bay leaves. Half cook. Half a teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon of rosemary. I must have used like a whole tablespoon and plus. It was just too much. Right? And 4 cloves of whole garlic. Strain, pepper to taste. Right? Okay. So that's we're going to do this again. No shame in my game. Sometimes things just don't work, but one man's junk is another animal's treasure. Right? So in this situation, this here, I don't know why there's no tag on it. I don't know how she would have known what to charge me for that. God forbid. Unless it's here. Here it is. Yeah, this one. $22.66. Oh my God. But I can get 2 meals out of this. The reason I bought it is I want to, well, this one has bones, so I can sliver off the bones. I'm going to freeze them as is in a rack, and that will be barbecued pork ribs another day. This upper part with the skin, I'm going to cut into chunks, and I'm going to deep fry them in oil. That's what I want. That's why I paid $22. Now, I could have got the ones without the bones, which would have been slightly cheaper, but I decided I wanted one day barbecued spare ribs, pork spare ribs. But I want to make what I'm making for Amari really rich. So, I suppose before I cut into this one, because this one would make a meal within itself, could be vacuum sealed and frozen as is. So before I cut into that one, I am going to do this one first and see how much meat I get, because this is what I've got to start with. The studnats, which I'm going to cook in my old Dutch oven here, cast iron Dutch oven. So it heats up really, really good. Fresh. I did scrape it. I bought bones for soup, so I'm, again, wanting to make it really rich for him. So I'm throwing in 2 extra bones, right? 1 foot, I guess you could say. Right? Okay, you can see that. And then I'm going to sliver this, and then I'm going to either take some meat from this, or I'll just cut off a piece from that and throw that in there so that it becomes even richer. So hold on a minute. Okay, so anyway, you can see what I've done. I've taken off all that from that. So now I'm going to vacuum seal that and freeze that, right? I could have left them like that, but I chose to cut them up into bits and pieces. And then I'm going to salt and pepper them just a little bit, right? And then I took a bit of that, you can see the meat from that, just to give it a little more, because this is going to go in, right? Water is boiling, okay? I'm throwing in 2 bones just to give it that extra collagen, right? I think it's called collagen. Gelatin, right? We want, right? Okay, you want that. That's what makes the gelatin. You can, I don't know if you can do this with chicken bones, but anyway. And there's an extra bone, you can see, right? Just to make it more rich. I've washed them. The next ones that I'm going to freeze, I'm going to wash them, scrape them, and then when I vacuum seal them, I'm going to put on the vacuum on the bag that it's pre-washed, so I don't have to. What do you call it? I don't have to. Wash them after the fact. Where the other ones that I bought frozen, I'd wash those ones. So now I'm going to just take a bit of salt, okay? Half of this I'm freezing, the other half I'm going to cook. I'm going to just cook it in oil, right? I'm looking on YouTube, honestly. I seen a little recipe and I can't find it now, so I'm not going to use too much, because you can always salt it after the fact, right? Just a little bit. The one I just seen says tempura flour. I don't know if I have any. I've got vegetable tempura flour, but I don't know about this other one. And then just put some pepper in there, right? You can put a little bit of vinegar with it if you want. Apparently that helps with the grease. But I'm just doing a little bit, right? And I'm going to cook it in oil. So I'm going to come back and I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so for those that do eat meat, pork in particular, again, vacuum seal, right? It's too expensive. This was what, 22 and a bit plus 7 and 25 cents. So we'll just round it off at 30 bucks. Okay, you don't get much for $30. You can see what's going on here. Plus we've got the other half of the package of the feet and a couple of bones. Okay, so before I put in the bay leaf, wandering eye, sorry people. I just don't have the stamina like I used to. I don't know. Anyway, before I put in the bay leaf, the rosemary, the garlic, I already put a little bit of salt in there. I'm going to just take out that kind of stuff. Right? Right, there's a little bit there, not much. And then I'm going to put the lid on. You can see. Just take that out. I will do that. And then put the lid on and just stew for the next 3 hours. And it should work out fine. We'll just pick up after the fact. So here we've got the washed pig's feet. I like to put the date May 2021, just because sometimes, you know, not that it matters. in terms of you can come back 5 years later. As long as it's vacuum sealed, it will still be fine. Pork crackling, obviously there's meat in there, right? Which we're going to be cooking up some tonight because I bought Chinese noodles with, and I have bean sprouts, so I got to cook them up ASAP. Pork bone, double bag it, so I'm using old bags. If I cut, I wash my bags, I save them, and in this situation, because you're dealing with bones, and even then I can feel it, this bag will probably bust, right? But besides that point, it's good for now. So it's double bagged. You can see how nice it is, right? That will make a good broth one day for something. And then we've got that rib, which works fine for Andre and I, and a little bit for Amari. You can see how nice that is. And then we've got that little roast for $7.25, which is perfectly fine, right? With a nice bone in it. So this is something you can do in a crock pot. So now I'm going to put these in the freezer, so hold on. Okay, so now it's like 10 after 3 in the afternoon. So just 1 teaspoon of rosemary. I use this one, the organic one. Okay. I would think it's all the same, pretty much. I think where I made the mistake is, I don't know, this thing was full. That's too much, okay, people? Rosemary is a very pungent spice, so you just want a little bit. You have to put it in that, right? So, right? That's one of those little tea things. And then it said 4 bay leaves, so I just took some bay leaves from a jar that I have with bay leaves in it. Right? These are, but they'll work. And we'll throw them in there. And what else did it say? Whole garlic, 4 cloves, 4 bay leaves. So, fairly large. Anytime I can give Amari garlic, obviously I like to do it. It's really unfortunate. I know, well, I don't know for a fact, but honestly, people, I don't think Tisha would ever go out of her way to make Amari this when I'm gone. Simply because she'd go, ew. Right? And because she herself doesn't eat a lot of meat, you know, I don't know. Anyway, I'm making it. It's a Mari side dish. It's high in nutrients. It's got that gelatin that he needs. So, obviously I turned down the heat. There wasn't much to take off. So now I'm going to put this on. And because that's a Dutch oven, it's going to heat up really, really good. And then I'm going to now cook it for about 3 hours anyway. 2.5, 3 hours or so. Like that, right? Check it every now and then. Just move those bones around and stuff, eh? To make sure that nothing sticks to the bottom. I might have to turn that down once it heats up to about 2, which will be fine. And then I'm going to strain it because I've got 2 extra bones in there. And even though I washed them, you know, we don't want little slivers, right? So I will strain the liquid, right? Just to be double sure, because you're dealing with cut bones. And then after that, I'll show you what to do, but basically in a nutshell, you cut your skin and just the whole 9 yards. And for adults, you can leave little bones in because we like to suck on bones because, you know, closer to the bones, sweeter the meat. And then you get the marrow. But for Mari, I wouldn't do that, right? I'd take them out and I'll suck them on. I'll suck on them after. And then I'll throw them in the compost, right? Because then you're adding in calcium into your compost as you're making dirt, which is good. And then when you gel it, after it will gel, and then I cut it and I put it into jars and I freeze it and it comes out perfectly fine. And as long as it tastes good before it goes in the jar, it's going to taste just as good after you take it out of the freezer. So much so that I want to eat it. Not everything well, this stuff, you know, people, trust me, I want to eat it too. You know, it's really, really good, right? But in this situation, the majority of it, not all of it, but the majority of it will be for amari. Just like I did those vegetables, right? I warmed up one of those little beef soups that I just recently made, put in 2 crackers, and boy, he just gobbled it up. Right? Some meals, you can give him a fair amount of food. Other meals, they have to be smaller because of his tiny waist. You know, there's only so much room in his gut to fit food, right, people? You have to give time for food to travel and actually digest. Right? So, it's a juggling act. But, boy, you'd be so proud of him the other day. I put him on the toilet, people. It wasn't even 10 minutes, 8 minutes. I came back and I'm like, what happened? Something happened in here, Amari. Ooh, and he's smiling at me, people. He's like, right, just grinning, and he's ready to get off the toilet because he knows what he did in terms of his duties, right? So, I'm glad I've been doing this for as long as I've been doing it, because it was just great, right? No stress, nothing. No stress for him, no stress for me, no stress for Andre, right? Is it like that all the time? No, not all the time, but, you know, it's getting better, right? In terms of, it's just getting better, right? So I mix match his food, and I mean, we know I'm doing this for Amari because of the nutrients and that the marrow, the collagen, and the gelatin, which is all good for that cartilage within the hip socket, mainly. I make it for his hip socket, mainly, people. Yeah, that's what I do. Okay, so basically, I just try and show you how to stretch out your money, you know, in terms of, I guess you could say 99 cents a pound for those cucumbers, right? You know, or what I did with the meat. I mean, how many bags did I have? We'll just say 5 anyway. So $30, $5 a meal. That's not bad for meat, right? Pork, I suppose. I mean, if I bought that amount of beef, it would have costed me $80 to $100. So, right? That's just a little extreme. So when you're paying out those kind of prices, doesn't matter if it's for pork or beef or chicken or fish, or I really do highly recommend getting yourself one of these things, right? And the attachment for jars, okay? You want the wide mouth and the regular mouth, okay? Because you can vacuum seal things in jars too. So, and recycle your bags. Nothing wrong being thrifty. Some of them will reseal. Others are only good to double bag, like if you're doing bones, right? Okay? Because you pay good money for those things, and you don't want to be wasteful or feel like you're being taken for granted, right, in terms of the cost. If you recycle over and over until the bag's no good no more, however you recycle, then it becomes much more economical. Your food lasts longer, forever really. And as a matter of fact, I was in the freezer, I put that meat away, and I pulled out a little bag of black walnut that I did years and years ago, obviously vacuum sealed. And the last time I made something with them, oh, they were so good. But every now and then you miss a shell, and my son said, oh, I've bit into a shell. I mean, there's only so much you can do in a day, right? You do the best that you can. So now that I'm thinking about it, I think maybe I took it out of the freezer and I didn't put it back. So before they go to waste, I'm either going to find them, throw them back in the freezer, or maybe I'll leave them out and make something with them. Now we're gonna keep on this video, because now I'm gonna go and see the celery I dehydrated, and then I got these little peppers cheap. They were just discount peppers, so right, just to show you how easy it is to do. And then I got some ginger that was cheap, so I'm gonna shred it. I'm gonna dehydrate that as well. I've already peeled it last night because it was like, I'll show you. Hold on. Yeah, I did leave them out. Andre found them. Look at that. 2017, before they cut down those trees. Right? This is black walnut, which is really, really sweet, people. So, so sweet. I love my warrior tree in the back. I wonder if I'll ever see it produce a nut. A tree has to grow for about 10 years or so before it can produce a nut or any kind of fruit. But, well, I gave my landlady a plum tree several years ago. Last year she said all she got was one plum out of it. She thought it was funny. Just one plum. How many she gets this year, I don't know. But it's not 10 years old, so to get one plum out of a plum tree that's not even 10 years old, I think she's doing pretty good, right? So anyway, I'll leave these out, and then maybe we'll do something with these. Maybe I'll make bread with walnut in it or something. Okay, so anyway, you take everything off, you cut, right? This one here has bones in it, mostly bones, because I don't mind bones. This one is more for amari, has the meat, the gristle, the fat, everything, right? No bones though. Garlic. Salt and pepper to taste. You can see the pepper floating around. Now the reason it's so cloudy is because when I cooked it, I had the lid on that pot. If I would have not done that, the liquid would be more clear, but that's okay. You just incorporated the fat more when you cover it. It's good. It tastes the way it's supposed to taste. Okay, so we're going to finish this fermenting video. Do you see those little bubbles up on top?
Yeah.
Yeah, those little bubbles. That means that your brine solution is starting to work. That's what it means. It means it's starting to go into a form of fermentation.
I see.
Okay? So, we're not going to lift up the lid or nothing yet. The house, like I say, my house is cold. So, hold on a minute. But you can see what's going on. We're going to talk more about this another day. Right, Alea May?
Uh-huh.
Are we going to talk about this another day?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Oh, that's Nana's. Nana clearing out some of her dishes.
Yeah.
You see that big, beautiful bowl over there? All right. Okay, so now this is the end result of what I did yesterday. Now, the only thing that I got to say about this is if you want clear jelly, which I do, and I didn't get. He's just following me around. Right. Okay, you have to skim it of the fat. Do you see? Okay, this one doesn't have a lot, but before you serve it, you can do that, right? As best as you can. Right? If you don't like it. Right? No, just a little bit. Now, do you see how this jelly is cloudy? I'm going to end this video, okay? Because I'm just going to end this video. And then tomorrow I'm working outside. I have to start in the back. I got to get to Fertile Myrtle and Clipper Wings. Yeah, that's what I got to do. Okay?
That's true.
Yeah. And so, anyway.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you're making a broth, okay, or jelly,
Okay, Tita.
the secret to getting a clear broth
Tita.
with less fat incorporated directly into the liquid itself, where it ends up becoming cloudy, is when you put your bones and whatever, meat and everything, into the pot, and you bring it up, right, to a boil. Okay, you just bring it up to the boil, skim everything down, and then just kind of keep it where it's not boiling. Because once you start boiling, then that's how the fat gets boiled right into the liquid itself, and you'll get it cloudy. So in other words, what I should have done, what I normally do, is I'll bring it up to a boil, right? Turn it down, start skimming the blood as it surfaces, and then just simmer it on a low boil, right? You know how to simmer, right? And then you don't get that where it's so cloudy, because I noticed it got very cloudy, and that's probably because Leia May, no, you can't go by Nana's desk. Go away from there.
Alea, come here, Mama.
In that recipe, it said take the meat and the bones and throw them into boiling water. And then cook, which I did with the lid. And that was a Dutch oven, cast iron Dutch oven. So it really just incorporated everything right into the liquid. So in this case, it's not as clear, like for, you know, aesthetic purposes, right? But, and I didn't put enough salt, but that's just me, right? I should have had probably another, for the amount that I had there, I should have had about another half a teaspoon or so, to which, after I tasted it, I just sprinkled a little more, and then I said to heck with it. If it needs more salt, you can add the salt then, as if Amari would know, right? Because you mix it in with other foods. What we want to give them is the jelly, because that's what helps to keep cartilage in the bones, sockets and stuff healthier. Much better batch. The only thing is, it needs a little more salt, in my opinion, and pepper. But for Mari, it's perfect. So now, right, I am going to freeze in those little jars, my little salmon jars, because this stuff freezes very, very well. And I give it to him with his meals. And I get the satisfaction of knowing that, you know, he gets those extra nutrients. And for people that are suffering from hip problems because of weight, that's a big one, injury, old age, right? This is what you do to bring in that collagen for your cartilage. And I suppose if you don't eat pork, you could try it with lamb. Why not? Or you could try it with chicken bones, because chicken bones will make a good gelatin too. It doesn't have to be pork. Right? It's just, that's what Ukrainians do. And it got them through the famine and hard times and 40 below winter up in Alberta in the middle of nowhere on the farms. Now this one's Amari's, and then I made my own leftover little tray, basically with the bones, because I like sucking on the bones. Mine doesn't have meat or anything in it. The only other thing I think I would have done, definitely needs more salt and pepper. But maybe simmered it down just for a little while longer to make the broth more richer, so the gelatin is more jelly-like. I'm finding that this is not as thick in terms of jelly, but it will do its job. That's how I'm going to end this video. Everything else has been put away. Oh yeah, $3 worth of celery, 2 stalks. Buying celery at $1.50 for a stalk in this day and age. Anytime you can find it, you buy it, you dehydrate it. It's really, really good. Lasts a long time. Same thing with those little discount bags. Every now and then you run in across them. And this is peppers, those little peppers, those little sweet peppers. So these are really good. This cost me $4.50 in terms of 2 bagfuls. Or $2.21 a bag or something like that. So 3, we'll say 4.50. So even that, what is that? That's $7.50 just for celery and a few peppers. That's not factoring in full price. So when you can find it discounted or on sale, this is what you do. And then you can make those beautiful soups or whatever you're going to do with it as you need it. So we're going to follow up more than likely with fermentation. I'm trying to motivate Lady P here, right? Right? And what do you call it? We're going to talk more about foodborne illnesses in terms of where they come from, the different types and that type of thing, just to, you know, make it a more rounded video when it comes to food fermentation. And then we'll see what else I'll talk about when I get to that point. I'm just going to let that sit for a day or two. I may take a short video, but outside of that, I'm working for a couple, 2-3 days in the yard. I really don't plan on bringing out the camera with me because I just want to hunker down and put in long hours, right? I did hire somebody to do some house repairs in terms of the porch and the leaking. I'm going to go through the gutters one more time, really make sure that they're good to go by fall with no leakage, all the pipes, everything attached, right? And when he's up there, he's going to install the Christmas lights for me, people. It cost me $200 for everything for that, and $300 for the porch with the wood. And he's going to get his buddy to help him, I think, too. And he's going to do a much better job than me. And then, of course, with the porch, I will ask my landlady to help pay for that after she sees what was done, right? The gutters, no, not so much, because she did get them done last year, but the guy who did them last year really had a bad attitude, and I don't know how well he did them, and he didn't even fit the one pipe he was supposed to fit. So I will take care of the gutters simply because he's going to get up there and hang up the Christmas lights for me this year. So that's kind of exciting. So it would be very nice if the yard was completely done by the end of the year with the Christmas lights, right? And 2 ponds with some little fish in the big one. That's that's what I'm shooting for in terms of that's my goal. So I have to work outside for the next few days, and I won't be taking the camera out with me, but I might do a yard check after the fact. So if you don't see me, don't worry, okay?